Have you ever felt like God was calling you to do something that terrified you? Something that didn't make sense? Something that made you feel exposed, vulnerable, or unqualified? I have. And if I'm honest, sometimes I wish He'd just ask me to stay in the boat, where it's safe, where it's predictable, where I'm in control. But faith doesn't grow in comfort zones. It grows when you step out into the unknown and trust that Jesus will hold you up. Hello, everyone. Today, I want to share one of my favorite stories in the Bible, the moment Peter stepped out of the boat and walked on water, because I believe that same invitation is waiting for you. Come. In Matthew 14, the disciples were in a boat, crossing the Sea of Galilee. Night had fallen. The wind was fierce. The waves were rising. And then, in the middle of the chaos, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. Imagine that scene. The darkness, the wind roaring, the boat rocking, and suddenly, there He is, calmly walking where no one else could. Matthew 14:27, NIV. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Before He called Peter to step out, He spoke to their fear. Because Jesus knows that before you can walk in faith, you have to hear His voice above the storm. Then Peter said something bold. Matthew 14:28, NIV. Lord, if it's You, tell me to come to You on the water. And Jesus replied with a single word. Come. I love that. No long explanation. No reassurance that everything would be perfect. Just an invitation. Come. And in that moment, Peter did what no one else dared to do. He stepped out of the boat. He didn't wait for the wind to stop. He didn't wait for the water to calm down. He moved while the storm was still raging. That's faith. For a moment, Peter did the impossible. His feet touched the water, and it held him up. As long as his eyes were fixed on Jesus, he walked where no human logic said he could. But then, something shifted. Matthew 14:30, NIV. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me! He took his eyes off Jesus and put them on the storm. That's when fear won. That's when he started to sink. Fear doesn't have power over you until you agree with it. It grows when you focus on everything going wrong instead of the one who called you. But even then, even as Peter was sinking, he did the most important thing he could have done. He called out for help. Immediately, not after a delay, not after a lecture. Immediately, Jesus reached out His hand and caught him. Matthew 14:31, NIV. You of little faith, He said, why did you doubt? Jesus didn't let Peter drown in his failure. He didn't abandon him to prove a point. He saved him. Because that's who He is. Even when you step out and your faith falters, Jesus is still faithful. Your doubt doesn't cancel His rescue. He'd rather see you try and start sinking than never step out of the boat at all. The truth is, there were 11 other disciples watching. They all saw Jesus on the water. They all heard His voice. But only Peter had the courage to move. It wasn't that Peter was stronger or more spiritual. It was simply that he was willing to risk failure to experience something greater. Most people never experience the joy of walking on water because they're too afraid to leave what feels safe. But safety doesn't change your life. Comfort never produces miracles. If you want to see God do the impossible, you have to step out into uncertainty. You may not be called to step onto literal waves, but God is still calling you to step out in faith. Maybe for you, walking on water looks like starting something new even when you feel unqualified, forgiving someone who hurt you deeply, trusting God with your finances when you don't have enough, sharing your faith even if you're afraid of rejection, letting go of control in an area you've held onto for too long. Whatever it is, I believe Jesus is still saying the same word. Come. Not because you're ready, but because He is ready to meet you there. The key to walking on water isn't perfection, it's focus. When Peter looked at Jesus, he was empowered to do what was impossible. When he looked at the waves, he lost his footing. The same is true for you. What you focus on will determine whether you walk or sink. If you focus on your limitations, you'll feel overwhelmed. If you focus on Jesus, you'll find courage you didn't know you had. And even when you stumble, his hand is already reaching out. I don't know what your boat is. I don't know what storm you're facing, but I do know this. Jesus is already on the water. He's already where you're afraid to go, and he's inviting you to trust him more deeply than ever before. It won't always feel safe, it won't always make sense, but it will always be worth it. Because when you step out of the boat, you discover something beautiful. The waves you fear can't drown you when your eyes are on the one who called you. Thank you for watching. If this message encouraged you, please like this video and subscribe, not just to support this channel, but as a declaration. I will step out of the boat and trust Jesus no matter how big the waves get. God bless you.